Hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. My name is Jennifer Radke, and I'm the CEO of the National Institute for Social Media. Looking forward to having you all here today. As you get settled, please feel free to jump in the chat. Let us know where you are joining us from. Hey, Katie, good to see you. Amanda, nice to see you. Currently, the temperature of the surface of the sun. Yes, I think most of the world is super hot right now. Shannon, Paulette, hey, Marianne. Kevin's in northern Minnesota. Is it hot there, Kevin? Because it is hot here. Peyton, Iowa. So great to see everybody's hot right now. Mia, what's it like where you are?
Well, I turned up my air conditioning about to like 60 degrees. So I have been like excited and hot getting ready for the session. So I'm all sweaty over here.
I do understand how that goes. Today, I think Minnesota is supposed to be a high of 98 with a heat index of 111. So yay. I was just down in Texas. Shout out to College Station. I was just down there last week and it was temperature over 100 every day. So
Oh my baby brother just graduated
oh
from
really?
there.
That's so fun. My oldest is starting his sophomore year. So
Oh, that's gonna make it exciting.
I know, right? I know. Katie, it is warm for certain. So, and Joe, you're in Texas. How cool is that? You're not normally in Texas. All right. Well, I know we've got a lot to cover today, so I just want to cover a couple of housekeeping things. Most of you have been to one of our sessions before. If you have not, welcome. We're super excited that you are here. For those of you who are certified as a social media strategist, your time today counts as a continuing education hour, so a CEU. Please make sure that you are tracking that in your CEU tracker. If you do not have one, you can message me separately later. I'll make sure you get one. If you're looking for additional continuing education opportunities, I just threw up a link that you can go ahead and open in the background to view when we're done. But that gives you a whole list of previous webinars and other online courses to help you with your social media strategy and move through continuing ed or just professional development in general. We will have a lot of activity going on today on the site. There'll be a lot of resources for you. So as you see one of these action items pop up, make sure that you grab a hold. Keep the questions coming in the chat box, and we will get to them the best that we can. We do have some upcoming webinars. They have not yet made it to our website. We had some last minute changes. So please put in the chat if you need to be added to our newsletter. Otherwise, as soon as we have the date solidified, we will be getting you some updates. We've got some folks coming in September to talk about Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is coming up in October, and provide some resources for that. So I'm really excited. All right, today we're talking about Google Analytics 4, and Mia is here to help us because I am definitely not the expert on this topic. Mia is a 14-year veteran of analytics. She grew up inside digital marketing agencies like Huge, Critical Mass, and Mirum. She's taken a bit of a sabbatical from digital marketing since she worked for 3 years for independent media to reimagine what data could do on media sites to promote civic engagement. Those two words back to back are really a tongue twister. But I'm really excited. Mia and I met, I think, on LinkedIn, and we connected, and I really know she's got a lot of valuable information to share. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mia.
Thank you so much, everybody. Happy Hump Day. I am so excited to be here with you, and you are in trouble because I've had a lot of coffee, and we're going to talk about data in a non-boring way. So many of you I know are feeling totally overwhelmed. ChatGPT came out, Google Analytics changed, Facebook event pixels are different, and it feels like the ground is shifting out from under us. And maybe that's always happened in digital marketing, but like now it just seems like there's an incredible like entire era is shifting, and it is. So let's just take a little breath and try to reset. By the end of this hour, yes, you're going to be conversant in identifying a good GA4 implementation from a bad one. You're going to be able to understand the basic components of the Explorer tab in GA4, and you'll even get an exercise in Looker Studio, which I provided as a handout to you. But if you take nothing away but a fresh perspective on the power of Google Analytics 4 and a positive mental attitude toward learning it, it will have been a good day for me and for you. So we're going to move super fast. I have exercises for you and things to download. Do the best you can, but really don't worry. It's all going to be recorded. So if you watch this later at 25% speed next time around, you're going to be all good. So what we're going to cover is first, again, taking a look at if the data is clean, using the Explorer tab. We're going to do a little exercise in there. Don't worry if you don't have a Google Analytics account that you can use. I have a link for the Google Merch Shop, which is free for everybody to test out. You're going to get a Google Looker Studio dashboard to copy and paste and make your own. And then we're going to talk a little bit about merging social media and landing page testing to get ROI from the insights that you get from GA4. So who am I? My insights have been making it rain for decades at some of the biggest agencies in the world. I work for Mattel, Nutella, Peanuts, Barbie, and a handful of schools. And now I run this analytics AI called Clickvoyant that automates statistical behavioral research from GA4 data and more. So it's kind of like having a data analyst sidekick 24/7, but to understand her, you have to know about GA4. So let's get cracking. First, a little context. The data model has changed. You've probably heard this. We're event-based and not session-based anymore. And what that actually means, structured versus unstructured, you think of Google Analytics 3 as a model home. You go into it, everything works, you can turn on the lights, the rooms are built, and yes, it's not perfect, it's not exactly your taste, but it all works. With GA4, you've got a house that's taken down to the studs. So you're allowed to do whatever you want in there, make it your own, make it to the exact specifications of what you need. But what that also means is you are going to need the plumber, the architect, the carpenters to build all those things. And in essence, what I'm trying to say is a lot is mess upable and it's complex. But why would Google do this to you? There are several reasons. But the main one to take away today, and the one that matters, is that the new data structure is built for AI and machine learning. Dashboards that you've been used to, that we've been used to for the last 15, 16 years, they're bean counters. Like, it doesn't help that we started out talking about measurement strategies, and you can't manage what you don't measure, and attribution, and where does this lead come from? But who has ever looked at a dashboard and had no more questions? Whoever looked at a dashboard and was like, yeah, all the truth is here. Virtually no one. You always have to do more research. And so these bad habits of dashboards and analytics and bean counting, it's really not our fault. But we really want to get to is a place where we start thinking about Google Analytics as a place for real research, for creating, data-driven empathy between us and our customers. And the AI era doesn't necessarily have time for dashboards. You want to know what you need to know in the moment of acting. You want fearless decision making. And this is the promise of the new data architecture of GA4. Deeper, meaningful data that can be put into AI to learn more about what your customers and your prospects prefer. And in that way, we're creating the data-driven empathy and getting right to the right message, right time, right place. So every good analysis starts with, is the data good? So how to tell a good implementation from a bad one. I have a guinea pig site up here, DeVry. If you prefer another site, somebody just drop it in the chat and I'll use that. But this is where we're going to take our first handout. Number one is, did we collect everything? So first we're going to look at this. So the handout here is the link to the analytics debugger. What you're going to do is go here and download this in Chrome, and this is going to give you God capabilities of knowing what is going on with the data. When you download that to Chrome, this is installed in your developer tools. And then the first thing you're going to do is try to go in here. And somewhere in here, there's give this guy, oh, here we go. You're going to click on that little coffee mug right there, and you're going to buy this man a coffee. This is a completely free tool that allows you to see all of the data that is passing on a website. And so what we're going to try to do today is take a look at, okay, here is a website. It wants me to take my education to the next level. And so now I'm going to select an area of study, and I can see what's being passed here. Here's GA3, navigation teaser drop-down item list options, accounting and finance. So I know it gets a little scary too. If you start doing this too much, you start to wonder what other people are looking at on you. But let's assume that everybody's trying to create that data-driven empathy between my experience and this website. So you can see all of the activities as being tracked in GA3. Now, one of the best things to do, say, is it here in GA4? You could see that there were a couple clicks here that I selected. I'm going to select class preference. I prefer an online class because it's post-COVID world. And then I'm going to hit request program info, and you can see all of this lovely data passing in. There's an inquiry start. I can see that there is a form here. I want to see if this data is passing in, and this will allow you to go through what is the next step. The next step is taking a look at this spreadsheet. This is exactly how we do it at Clickvoyant. We are just making sure everybody can see the spreadsheet. Yes, yes, okay, all good. On the first tab, what we've got are, here are all the components. Now, why would we try to track all of this stuff? Navigation, call to action, social media action. Why is DeVry tracking all these items here? It's because this company is anthropologic about the research that they're doing on how somebody moves through this experience. When you see data pass through every click, every scroll, every video view, every download, every chat, this means that there is enough data here to start digging into. So how you'll want to use this is to say, okay, let's look at the components. Is everything on my website here? Is it present on the site? If yes, write down what the URL is and then see, is it tracking? Actually add is in the comments, is this tracking? Yes or no? You could go so far as to see like what is actually being tracked. But ideally, this is the document that you would take to your GA implementation specialist and just go, this is the stuff that I need. Why? Because I'm trying to be anthropologic about my customer's experience. Then you go through and see, like, there are other things that you could get into. I'm not going to get into it because we got to get into GA4, but just so you're aware of what all is in here, we're going to take a look at all of the different events that are set up in Google. So now you see the data passing in through the browser. The thing about GA4 is now you have to catch that data back in there in the admin panel. So a quick way to check what's been done is we're going to go through these steps and say there are some critical account settings. Do I have the right dimensions? Those are the values that help me understand the meaning of the metrics. Like what is the description of the metric? The custom metrics, custom audiences, which you'll want to set up for social media particularly, because those custom audiences are where the power lies. It's almost like a segment, and we'll get into that in a second. So for these critical account settings, you can go back. I'm going to go now and show you what that looks like. This is in the admin panel right here. So you're not going to be able to see all of this in the Google merchandise example, but I'm going to show you what this looks like in my own Clickvoyant data. We're opening up the drawers here. So first, what you want to do is take a look at your custom dimensions. Here you can see custom definitions. So you're in your GA4 property. Take a look at the custom definitions. See what are the different things that we want to know about all of the different events. I want to know form name, form location, report ID fragment. These are things you might want to to know the selected time of the scheduling a tour. And you also want to select maybe some custom metrics. So if you see nothing in here, when you click in here, you might have a little bit of work to do. The next thing you want to check is going into data streams. So Google's got this thing now where they do this enhanced tracking. Used to be you put a pixel on a page, you get a page view. Whoop-de-doo. Now you can actually go into, you're going to data streams, you're going to click on that data stream that you have, and now they've got this enhanced measurement, the magic button as implied by this icon. What you in here, Google is allowing you to say, we're going to auto detect this stuff for you, where you don't have to go in and, go in and custom tag everything. We're just going to auto detect. If you take one thing away from enhanced measurement, it's most of it is good, but the form interactions is not. Public service announcement, the auto track form on form interactions here will track every submit even if there was an error. So for example, on this get more information that I'm on DeVry here, if I try to go to this next step, or let's say like here, I'm going to request program info, or I get onto this request info button and into this form, I go ahead and I start hitting next step, see fill out fields, I get an error, and you can see here what they're tracking is this form interaction said, yep, that was an error. What happens is if you have this set up, this is that it will track it as a form complete, inflating your conversion events. So getting back into what that means, let's go take a look at some other things in here. We're looking at conversion events. Do you have conversion events? That's critical. If you see stuff in here, good job. We can go in and start taking a look at some of that data. You want to see that you're, in addition, we're going to go down to make sure that you're that your Google signals are on. This allows you to check demographic data if your company will allow you to do that. You want to also check to see that the data retention is at 14 months. So I know that a lot of you are in higher education. This basically means that do I track this person for 2 months or do I track them for 14 months? I know that when I was in higher education, sometimes the lead time is actually 18 months to make a decision. And so you'll definitely want to make sure that that cookie persists throughout that time. Other things are like data filters, filtering out internal traffic. If you're a big marketing team, that is something that you might want to do because you're constantly testing in there in your websites and in your forms, and that might be skewing your input. So let's assume that all of this has been done and we've gone through this process of like, okay, I've looked at the tracking, I've seen what's passing through, I can see that it is set up in Google Analytics. Let's move on to the Explorer tab. All right, so moving, now I'm going to move into the Google Merchandise Shop. I think we should have, Jennifer, if you could help with that handout or maybe we could put it in the chat. Then this will allow you to see Google's data. You can also follow along with your own data if it is valuable to you to do so. But we're going to go through a quick exercise so that we know what all is in here. All right, so I'm going to go into Explore. As you see the drawer pulls out, I'm going to go to the Explorer, and you can see in explorations, the main things you have are blank, freeform, funnel, and path. This is what we're going to look at today. There are other ones for a cohort analysis and segment overlap. These are probably not as interesting in the world of social media. So we're going to just focus this short time on these 3 things. So first, what I'm going to do is go into the freeform. The free form will allow us to understand a little bit more about how this is structured. So Google wants everybody to be a data analyst. Some of you who are used to working in dashboards might find this interface familiar, but what you have essentially is a section for this is the stuff that I want to have inside this particular report. In this area, my exploration area, what I've got is a free-form analysis. Now, what you have here are, these are all the components that I may want to add into this free-form analysis. But the freeform analysis components have to be dragged over here. There's a little bit of a little bit of confusion sometimes in here. Like, what does it mean? It just means that Google's not pulling all of the data under the sun to get you to work in here. So let's first start by creating a segment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete all these out here, and let's just create a social media segment, shall we? What I want to do is just see I don't want to look at all this stuff. I just want to look at the social media. So I'm going to create a user segment. Actually, let's create a session segment. This means last click attribution. I'll let you Google that if you don't know what I mean. But here I'm going to look for a channel group. So now this is giving me include sessions when the channel, and then there is an attribution session default channel group. That's what this used to be in GA4. When session default channel group, it contains social. And so now this is going to tell me, well, it's organic social or paid social. Well, I don't know yet, and I want everything. So I'm going to say contain social and hit apply. Name the baby. Sessions equal social. Save and apply. And now that's going to apply that segment to all of the data here. Next, you might want to import a couple more variables like, now I'm going to say this is a merchandise shop. So it is going to be e-commerce, but you can imagine yourself using this for, requests for information, or using these metrics for scheduling a tour. So here in the metric selector, I want to select, let's select item view. Like this might be synonymous to something like a product or program view. Okay, so e-commerce sometimes. So this search is very persnickety. Here's my item view events. I want to add that as a metric, and I want to add maybe something like add to cart. Maybe that's a begin the RFI form, and then I hit import. Now that does nothing. Basically makes it available to me. So what I can do instead is create here. Now what I do is drag over the variables that I've created into the segments here. So say, okay, I want to see device category, and I want to see how many, instead of my values being active users, I want to see the item view events. And now that's changed here. I can see the item view events by device category, and now I can see, let's drag over the add to cart. And so this is essentially, so maybe you can see, like, this is how it works. You've got your variables where you import the things that you want to work with. Think of it as your paints. And then the settings is like where I start to manipulate what I want this visual to look like. Some of the things that I'm trying to answer is like, okay, where in social media, what is the conversion rate of add to cart or RFI over the people who view the program pages? Then you can get to that data in this way. Let's move on. I said we were going to move fast. Stay with me now. We're going to move on to something that is the path analysis. So freeform is like anything that I want to take a look at. Pathform is a little bit more structured. So I'm going to move back into the explorations tab here, and we're going to grab a path exploration. Now, the best use case, there's a few words on this, best use case for the path analysis, you're going to use this for discovery. If you ever use the path analysis in Google Analytics 3, you know it's like, not a lot of answers there. It's really a place for you to say, I have a question about where people go after they land here in my customer funnel. I have a question about what they do after this in my customer funnel. Know that this report is a rabbit hole. You could spend days in here. It's more important for you to figure out, like, I've got this question that I want answered. Do not go in there without that question, because you will spend a long time in it and probably come up with nothing. So going back to the path analysis, this is how it works. You can see like in the path analysis, all of this has been pre-populated for us. What's really cool about the path is before paths in GA3 used to be page level. Now you can switch that out for an event. So let's create a social media segment. Let's actually, it takes a while to make a segment and to be respectful of everybody's time and to make sure we get through. Um, you know that like here you could start to like just put only the social media segment. It is not shareable. You're going to have to do that every time. I'm sorry, but we can get into how to do that in this when we start to talk about Looker Studio. So you're going to choose this drop down. So Google has pre-populated what the path looks like for you. You can see like here, my starting point is session start. But let's say that I want to start on a particular page, or I want to start on a particular thing. Like I want to look at view item. I want to start on that view of the product detail page. I want the view of the program page. Let's start there. So that becomes my starting point. Now, the cool thing about what you can do here is say, now I actually want to see the page title of what they do after they view that item. And now you can start to see, okay, here's what people are doing. But in addition, you can also select step 2. If I want to go to the Super G Timbuktu recycled backpack, I can also see what they did when they went there. So again, GA3 used to be page level events only, or page level paths analysis. Now you could see actually in a path exploration what they do and what they see on pages. Can you start with actions off-site, Anna? No, unfortunately, you cannot start this path with an offsite action, but you can create a handy dandy little segment for people who came from Facebook and then went to a product page. So that's probably how you're going to get to that insight. Cool. All right, I answered a question. That's amazing. Okay, I'm just making sure, I'm just looking through the messages here. Awesome. So that is essentially what the path exploration will do for you. Now, you say, yeah, I've gone into here, I have a question, I want to see where people are going, I want to see what they're doing across pages and events. Now you've got some insight. Now I have some kind of hypothesis of where people should be going, what sometimes in user experience called a happy path. I have a happy path, what they should be doing from social media, going all the way to. That's where the funnel comes in. Let's get back out to Explorer. So the funnel is essentially the same thing as a path, except for you've got a predefined idea of what people should be doing and where you want to see that drop off. So here, I'm going to open the funnel and I'm just going to go in here. So remember, here are my variables, here are my steps. I'm going to just delete these steps. These are the pre-populated steps by Google. Thank you, Google. But let's figure out like that, go back to step 1. To create the steps of your assumed hypothesized path, I'm going to say, okay, this step is a page view. And I want to start with a page view to the, what did you say, Anna? Product page. All right. So let's say I'm going to do this events. It's a page. So when page location, that means URL, everybody. When page location, add the filter, contains, let's say shop, or in your case, maybe product. Hit apply. So now it's only going to start when the page view contains this in the URL, shop. Now you can see this is a summary of my segment. Then I go to my next step. Let's see what they do when they get there. They add to cart or start filling out the form as some of the data that we saw. So this is an add to cart. And then I'm going to say, oops, cart. And then you're going to grab it from the events. Here's my add to cart. And then maybe for that add to cart, or maybe that program detail page, or maybe that form name is something else. You're going to add that filter, same thing. I'm going to create a parameter now. The parameters are only available if you set it up. Again, think about the plumber, the architect, all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is here is like when the item, like when the page title contains kids, I only want to see when people are adding a kids product and add to cart. Now you can see that that's getting a little bit smaller. Now I want to see something like a checkout. That's a checkout initiated, begin checkout, and apply. And now we've got our funnel. So before in GA3, we used to only get like a funnel that said checkout, viewed item, this. Now you can have whatever you want. You could have whatever you like. The world is your oyster. But got to set it up. So this is how to use the funnel exploration. And so now I'm just going to get into Google Looker Studio to show you a few things about that. But before we do, a couple notes. When you're working inside this interface, you can share it. You notice this little button here. This is actually not available to me because Google won't make it available, but some of you will see that there is this icon here and you may be able to click on it. That means that you can share this with somebody. Hey, look at these insights that I just found. This has implications to our strategy. That's cool and everything, but when that person receives it, it will be in their reports, in their interface. They will not be able to edit it, contribute. It is not a collaborative effort, which so many times analytics has to be. You may have analysts on your team, you may not. You may have other teammates, you're doing this together. Analytics is a team sport, everybody, and that is the main thing you want to take away about Google. The Google interface. Good for you to go and deep dive into when you need to, answer some quick questions, share a quick insight, but to be able to collaborate on analytics, the power of that is in Looker Studio and the shareability among friends. So you have another handout, which is the Clickvoyant GA4 webinar training dashboard. If you could help with that, Jennifer, I super appreciate it. What you're going to do when you get your hands on this baby is you're going to click, actually, you're probably going to duplicate. You're going to first edit. Actually, let's just double check. I believe there's a duplicate. Oh, there you go. Make a copy. Go in here, into the ellipsis, make a copy. When you get your own copy, you're going to click edit right here. And now we're looking at the beauty of Google Looker Studio. Sorry, I get stopped up because it used to be called Data Studio. I'm trying to get used to calling it Looker Studio. I might get tripped up here. It's like cancel culture. Anyway, so moving on to what we see, what we're looking at here. What you have is the ability, so think of each one of these. I call them reportlets. I don't know what you call them. Drop it in the chat. I'd love to hear what you call them. I call these reportlets. Think of each of these little reportlets that I'm selecting on. You can see my screen changing over here. Think of it as an explorer. Each one of these is its own explorer tab. The reportlet, when you click on that reportlet, you can see that there is a chart and that there's data. So think of this as synonymous to the GA4 interface for Explorer. It's kind of mirrored. You've got, here's your chart. These are the items that are in your chart, the way that you want to, build it out, what it should look like is all in here in this column. And in this column is all the data that is available to you. So unlike GA4, you actually do have all of the data right here. You don't have to go through the rigmarole of having to add the data. It's actually all available here, which is why most people find that this is the preference, the tool of choice when you're starting to analyze data. So what we're going to do here, I tried to make all of these, so sessions, total user conversions, everybody's going to have this, so it should work when you connect to your data. Right now it is connected to my data, so you get to see what's going on with the Clickvoyant website. But what you're going to want to do is click File here and Report Settings. And that report settings will allow you, in this data source, will change the data source for the whole report. So that is going to change the data source for all of the reportlets here. So go ahead and do that, and then come back here and let's take a look. So after the report settings and you switch this over to your data so you could see what that looks like, now let's talk about how to add. So you could see like dimensions again, metrics, descriptors, all of the metrics that I wanted to see here, and the breakdown of how I wanted to see it, which was the default session channel group. Now, if you want to create a segment here, you can by doing the filter. So you could say, filter, you could create a filter and say, I only want to see social media. And here's the include. This is the default channel, first session default channel group contains social media. Or I'm just saying social because I can get both. Oh, and now I have no data here. Let me, for purposes of the exercise, I will actually that's interesting. Session default channel group, you can see it here. Know that GA4 and GA and Looker Studio have been frenemies since the beginning, and some of this can get a little bit buggy. For example, the thing that I'm going to show you now was not working until just last week. So say like I want to see the default channel grouping here by paid social, organic social. I want to see sessions, total user conversions, but I also want to see the conversion rate. So what I'll do here in my data tab is search for that conversion rate. I mean, you can scroll through if you like. Oh boy, here we go. Again, search is pretty finicky. So I could say this is my conversion, user conversion rate or session conversion rate. I'll let you Google that later for my site. So I could say, oh, this session conversion rate, I'm going to drag it over. Oops. I'm going to drag that over into where my metrics are. And then you can see that being added right here. Now the session conversion rate is going to take everything that has been defined as a conversion in GA4. If you want to look at a specific thing, let's say like added a data source in my account, in my view, I'm going to put that right there. I'm going to drag it over. And this is a thing that was only working as of last week. So you could see a specific conversion rate for a specific action. So imagine yourself using this to say, I want to look by session for paid and organic social, the conversion rate for an add to cart, an item view, a checkout. I want to see the conversion rate by social channel, the product, the program detail view, the RFI, the form submit. Now, that is the power of having Google Looker Studio, that these conversion rates are not as flexibly available inside the GA UI. Now, other things that you might need to know is that Google Merch data is not open for Looker. So you'll have to use your own GA4 property to connect if you have access. But again, like the way that this works should be the same for everybody. Here I can see I'm looking at like landing pages, and what is this dimension here for like maybe social media. You could start to create your own filter to say only social media landing pages. What are the sessions conversions, and what is like the content that is leading to the highest conversion rate of my website. And then I think, do we have any questions about this so far? So like use this, make it your own, play with it, play with the different reportlets, pie charts, graphs. This will help you understand. I mean, the first thing you got to do is break it. You got to break it to figure out the things that you want to know, what you want it to do. And that's going to be the power of research in GA. You don't have access to the landing page variable in my Looker Studio. Well, that is, so there may be some settings, Maria. I would double check with the person who has access to GA4, but it usually is out of the box available. So definitely hit me up. I'm happy to look at it with you after class. All right. next thing I want to talk about now, pulling this all together. What is it all for? What does it all mean? Um, what you want to do with all of this insight is when you glean onto something. For example, in your landing page report, I see that these landing pages convert higher than other social media landing pages. Why? You won't really know why unless you start to think about a hypothesis and to test. And that's where we really develop the ROI of social media plus websites. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this particular case study. So maybe you've seen, this is not my client. I literally Googled school online request information and found this school. And maybe you've seen a schedule a tour page just like this. I swear, like if I see another yes, another school like this where we have on our request for information page, we are talking a lot about our brand, why the brand is important. We're offering this. It's a lot of copy. We're so good at what we do. My brand is amazing. We see a lot of forms like this. So in this particular case study, and a similar education client, we knew from the social media research in Google Analytics that the blog and the student activity on it was incredibly high. So while this form is talking a lot about the school and the brand and the legacy, the student body and the deep connections that they had with each other and to the faculty is not highlighted here anywhere. And so our test was to say, okay, let's think about how we can maybe introduce some testimonial visibility from the student body so that somebody signs up for the tour. Because after all, what does a student want to do when they schedule a tour? They want to see what it's like. They don't want to know the legacy or the 100 years of excellence. They want to know what life could be like, and they want to envision themselves in that place. And by improving the testimonial visibility on that page, we were able to increase the revenue exponentially. Now, how do we calculate revenue for a thing like that? It's basically like student lifetime value and its corresponding value up the funnel to a school tour. So the way that this site was converting before was very low because they were just kind of spraying and praying, talking about how good they were. Again, this is not the particular client, but if this is your website, congratulations on the free insight. But by adding the story of the social aspect of the school and gathering the materials from the social media team to put on the form, that increased the conversion rate exponentially, thus the enrollment rate. So I do have some time for questions, but I am grateful. I just want to say thank you, everybody, for spending this time with me. I mean, if you found value in anything I've said today, you're from social media, you know how this works. Do me this favor and give me a shout out on LinkedIn, and feel free to, even if you hated it, please let me know. Feedback is my medicine, and I promise to pay it forward or back in some way.
Mia, thank you so much. I have been watching the chat, which is usually a fire with questions and feedback. But I think that the hands-on piece that you were having people do has kept them from that. They're diving in, they're playing, they're learning along with you. So I think it was a great session. Now that they're all, yes, Sandy, I had to pay close attention. Totally get that. So now we're going to give them a minute to breathe and come back with questions. I know that Maria had one, so you guys can follow up. There's some great content here on that slide. Anyways, no, this has been so helpful, and I love that in Looker Studio you draw us into a reportlet that we can actually utilize instead of trying to reinvent the wheel all by ourselves. I know a lot of us struggled with that in Data Studio. I personally haven't played a lot in Looker Studio or with GA4 in general. So really looking forward to that. Oh, Kaylee says she's going to setting up a
Awesome.
call.
Ooh. Excellent. Yeah, and if you are interested, we do have a 4-day workshop that where we get in depth and I actually look at your work, and that starts September 12th. So definitely hit me up on my email or my LinkedIn right there to ask me about
That's
that.
fantastic, Mia. Thank you. We are open for questions, folks. If you have anything for Mia, we'd love to take them now. There was so much information covered, but I love that you walked us through the process, and this wasn't just a high level, oh, here's GA4, right? It was, okay, now this is important. Here's how you check to see if it's following through. Here's what you know next and where you go. So let's see here. Sandy has got a question.
Sure. Yes. Well, this is so in the example that we were talking about, Sandy, where it was like page location had to be the same as page URL. This is a vocabulary that we're going to have to get used to. But there is and I'm gonna find it. The thing that I usually go to is the Google Developer Tools, which allows me to see what are the names of all of the out of the box data points, dimensions, and metrics. I will have to follow up with that if that's cool,
And
Sandy.
we will do a email out to everyone who attended today so that you have the recording link, but also all the fantastic downloads. And then we can add that there, Mia, so that everyone will get that link to the developer tools. Anna agrees that would be super helpful. Well, and I just loved the way you broke down some of the pieces when you were going through it, and the metaphors and the examples that you gave for why we are looking at this data and why it's important to make sure everything fits together. So that was really nice. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that seemed to change with GA4.
Yes,
So we're opening this up.
GA4 has changed. I mean, and I think, I think that there is definitely like there's a reaction. You might have heard it. You might have heard people around complaining about the user experience, and it's not great. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's not good. And the changing of the naming and all that stuff. And a lot of people are trying to, go to Matomo. Let's go to Matomo, or let's find the thing that's the easier tool that's like what we had before. But remember, the whole reason for GA4 is new data architectures for AI. And if we're all interested in moving into this step forward in this new frontier, everyone is going to be, required to speak that language. And so just kind of putting in the reps at the gym. I would say today, like, Matomo, if you're thinking about doing that or something else, or an Oribi, that is like the silver sneaker shoes class at the Y. And if somebody go that, no shame. But Google Analytics 4 is getting my career, moving it into the AI era and starting to be conversant in data architecture and at least Google Analytics 4. And when they start rolling out their features, which I hope will be better, for e-commerce, not just for e-commerce, but also for predictive for things like a lead generation, that you will be able to explain why Google has made that recommendation.
No, I think that's a great point that you're making. And even with those additional tools, there's always been a hiccup between the collection of that data, right, from your first party source, so from Google, for example, into one of those other tools. And I can only see that gap getting larger, right, unless they're following along with the way that Google is moving into this AI centric center. It's going to be a challenge for them to keep up and still speak the old language. So I think that's fantastic. I'm totally with Katie on this. The hands-on analysis was helpful. And yeah, I know I need to invest more time into GA4. There were so many little hiccups that I had just in converting over to GA4, even with their assistant, right? I was like, and we did webinars with fantastic folks. But it was funny because every time there was some sort of bug or hiccup that one of the sites that I was working with had along the way. And so I think many of us probably got frustrated and stepped away when we really needed to be stepping or leaning in. So this has been super helpful. Any other last minute questions, team, before we let you get on with your day? They are stunned into silence.
Yes, there's a lot of work to do. And so I'm glad to have given you, the opportunity to dig in, get your own worksheets, start to like fill some of that stuff out or, delegate it if you're that lucky.
Absolutely. I'm going to have to delegate some, but I love this. It looks like everybody is good with questions right now. They all thank you for your time. I definitely do as well. We will send out a follow-up of the recording with some of these resources to you all in the next 24 hours or so. So patiently await that, and then you can dive back in and slow things down and make sure it's all set up the way you all want. So thank you, Mia. Thank you, everybody, for spending your lunch hour with us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.